Although Yi Man cultivated in the Shangxiao Divine Palace, she was not from higher heaven's realm. Instead, not only was she from the Snow Divine Kingdom, a top principality from the Shadow Realm, but she was also the princess of the Snow Divine Kingdom. Although Yi Man cultivated in the Shangxiao Divine Palace, she was not from higher heaven's realm. Instead, not only was she from the Snow Divine Kingdom, a top principality from the Shadow Realm, but she was also the princess of the Snow Divine Kingdom. The Shadow Realm and the Solar Realm were two opposite realms. Each contained the qi of ultimate yin and ultimate yang. In the Snow Divine Kingdom, it was covered by extremely cold snow year-round, and the cultivators there were also extremely cold in nature, like the unmelted ice of thousands of years. The Snow Divine Kingdom dispatched Yi Man to Shangxiao Divine Palace in the hopes that she would cultivate at other peak forces and learn from them. After Yi Man had cultivated in the Divine Palace for so many years, her temperament had indeed changed a great deal. Her unique characteristics inherited from the Snow Divine Kingdom could no longer be observed in everyday life. However, at this moment, the people around her exuded an extremely chilling sensation, and even their eyes were like ice and snow. One look was enough to turn the others into frost. Yi Futian naturally also felt the gaze from Yi Tianyu and Yi Man. He and Qin He both turned their gazes and looked over there with an indifferent expression. In the past, Yi Tianyu, the crown prince of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty, might have been able to give him certain pressure, but now, this crown prince of the Divine Dynasty could no longer pose any threat to him. His gaze didn't linger on Yi Tianyu for too long before he moved his eyes away and looked toward that extremely dazzling place in front of the crowd. What place is this? Yi Futian saw the magnificent scene in front of him, and his heart trembled. What he saw was a brilliant temple interwoven with an incomparable space light beams. Here, the temple stood upon the mountain in the wilderness, and it completely covered this space. Its immensity was incomprehensible. Even divine will could not perceive its boundaries. Divine items, divine implements. Yi Futian's heart trembled. Countless golden space beams seemed to divide this vast expanse into different areas, like a part of this vast and boundless spatial sacred hall. And these areas, where the space was partitioned, seemed to house a dazzling divine item. Were these the divine implements in the divine hall? If the crowd had just walked past a cemetery of a demonic emperor, or a demonic beast raised by a supreme being, then the scene in front of them might very well be a treasure trove collected in an entire lifetime by a supreme character. He saw many different treasures, such as swords and spears, common divine items that were a must, but there were also some rare artifacts. However, these artifacts seemed to be clearly visible to the naked eye, but no one who was present attempted to enter to fight for them. Could it be that they were unable to enter? He glanced at the periphery around the divine hall again. There were corpses on the ground, clearly indicating that fighting had already broken out, which meant that someone was fighting for the divine items. What was happening here? What's going on here? Yi Futian looked in a direction and asked Xiang Meng, the cultivator from the divine elephants. He and the divine elephants went from way back and had many exchanges with Xiang Meng himself when he was at the divine elephants and saw him as a worthy adversary. There are many artifacts sealed in that spatial sacred hall. Each treasure is separated from the other and needs to be opened individually to release it. Xiang Meng explained to Yi Futian, "You see that in front of each treasure, there was an independent space with a pattern of its own. Only when the pattern has been cracked can it be opened. If so, how come no one is doing anything?" Yi Futian asked in doubt. "They have," Xiang Meng responded, "but this spatial sacred hall is very odd. After the pattern has been cracked, the treasure will fly out of the sky from above, so even when you have broken the seal, the treasure itself wants to escape. Proactively solving the puzzle would only be creating opportunities for other cultivators who lay in wait. Gradually, some choose to wait and see even when they have the opportunity, acting more cautiously." Yi Futian nodded. He finally understood what was going on. Anyone would hope that once they opened the seal, the treasure would be theirs. But if the treasure flew out and thus taken by others, then there was not much point in it. Who would be such a fool? Hence, the situation in front of them. Just how many treasures are hidden in this spatial sacred hall, and is it difficult to open? Yi Futian asked. It's very difficult to open. Looking at it, there ought to be many treasures, Xiang Meng replied. They should all be at the top grade of Renhuang. Yi Futian nodded, and his heart was disturbed. At this time, some purple gold rats went to another area of the ruins. The speed of these purple gold rats was still very fast, not much slower than when they first arrived here. In one of the areas, a purple gold rat met many sacred trees and precious flowers. It was just like when Yi Futian once crossed the Sea of the Path when he went to the land of proving the way, and there were many fruits of the way. Aside from that, there were golden sacred trees towering into the sky, with endless lotus flowers that nurtured the great path, and many other exotic plants. This made Yi Futian felt as if it was a divine garden. Moreover, Yi Futian clearly felt that the purple gold rat was very close to him, and very possibly in the same ruin, only in different positions. If this was really a complete, larger relic, including all 4 major directions, then, is this a treasure trove of an incredible character? These demonic emperors were guarding here, and were those grounds the garden of a supreme existence? Yi Futian felt that this relic was called God's Relic, because it might really be the relic left by the legendary ancient gods. Is God the most supreme of the imperial realm? He wondered. He glanced at his surroundings and saw that all the top forces from the 9 realms had gathered here. Among them, there was even the existence of Renhuang, so no one dared to act rashly. At this time, a group of men came toward Yi Futian. Yi Futian's attention turned to them and saw that it was the cultivators of the Dou tribe, who had fought with him in the underground palace before. The one heading of the group was Dou Zhao. And it was not just them. All the top forces that had twice competed for the relic had arrived one step ahead of him. Ziwei Palace, Clan of the Seven Slayers, Heavenly Sword Hall, Yuanyang Clan, and Qishao Divine Mountain were all present to add to the grandeur of this occasion. Under such circumstances, no one dared to act rashly. Which force dared to claim to be invincible? Even if they were really invincible, would it be enough to beat out the alliance of the others? Did you just get here now? Dou Zhao asked. He had reminded Yi Futian to head east, but Yi Futian had arrived later than him. I went to another relic, and it took some time, Yi Futian said with a smile. Dou Zhao gave Yi Futian a meaningful look. After he seized the spear and the intent of battle, did this guy go ahead and inherit another relic? Have you recovered from your injury? Yi Futian asked. That fruit of the way was quite good, thank you, Dou Zhao said brightly. As a way of thanking you, I plan to lead the Dou tribe to join hands with you and split the treasures 50-50. What do you think? Get out of here. Yi Futian spat those words out. How could this loser propose an even split? 30-70, then, 30 for us and 70 for you. Dou Zhao didn't seem to mind, and continued with a silly smile on his face. He was thinking that judging from the speed with which Yi Futian took hold of the godly spear, there should be a ton of treasures in this spatial sacred hall for the taking. Yi Futian looked up without looking at him. 2080, Dou Zhao gritted his teeth and said. They definitely could not go any lower. He was the descendant of the Dou tribe, with the blood of the fighting god flowing in his body. How could he be humiliated by bargaining like this? I don't need anyone's help. Yi Futian looked at Dou Zhao with a smile. Wah. Dou Zhao looked at Yi Futian and felt an urge to punch his face. Didn't he say that he wanted to be friends? So callous. He was the descendant of the fighting god, and yet he kept retreating again and again. Forget it. You decide then, Dou Zhao said. Judging by the conflicts that had just occurred, he felt that if there were treasures, he had no hope of getting any of them. He was not afraid of those in St. Plain, but there were several Renhuang in this area with many other top characters. It would be hard for him to compete. Yi Futian looked at Dou Zhao, stunned. He had guts. Deal. Yi Futian immediately agreed without dissent. Indeed, he had been beaten by Yu Xing into submission. Dou Zhao looked at him, sighing inside. He had to submit because he was less skilled, a party that was defeated. Many people of power looked this way, especially those who were acquainted with Yi Futian. There were even cultivators of top principalities who came to him for alliance, but his attitude. This also made the likes of Yi Tianyu and Zhang Yuan frown deeply. Even those at the peak of power were willing to help him? Could he really be so powerful? Yi Tianyu had witnessed Yi Futian's strength later when they were at the Divine Palace, but Zhang Yuan had only heard of what happened at the Divine Palace. Help me take care of a person first, Yi Futian said to Dou Zhao. Dou Zhao looked at Yi Futian as if to say, "You are badass." "Who?" he said, gritting his teeth. "Him." Yi Futian pointed in a direction. "Over there, Zhang Yuan, the supreme body of the Great Path from Violet Heavenly Palace," who was looking at Yi Futian, was stunned for a moment. Yi Futian was pointing at him. "This man is known as the supreme body of the Great Path, one of a kind. Although you have the body of the fighting god, your victory is not guaranteed. Since you have nothing to do, why don't you give it a try?" Yi Futian said. Nothing to do. After Yi Futian arrived here, everything in this space seemed to have changed. But how come this felt kind of strange? Fine. Dou Zhao gritted his teeth, then turned and walked in the direction of the Violet Heavenly Palace, where Zhang Yuan was located. Dou Zhao of the Dou tribe from Ziwei realm is here to experience the supreme body of the Great Path. Zhang Yuan's face was gloomy, and his eyes were fixed on Yi Futian. This B** didn't bother to make a move himself, but let people from the other forces attack him instead. A violent thunder will of the way exploded and swept across the sky in an instant, blasting violently toward Dou Zhao. Dou Zhao took a step into the void, and a dull sound came out between heaven and earth. He seemed to have turned into a god of war, with divine light shining about him that directly opened up the will of the god of war. 3 marks of god of war appeared around his brow chakra, which opened up the 3rd layer. The supreme body of the Great Path ought to be incredibly strong. Yi Futian looked down on everyone, so he would give this supreme body of the Great Path a good beating to vent his anger. But how inconvenient it was for Zhang Yuan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Zhang Yuan looked at Dou Zhao. Although he was angry, he also felt Dou Zhao's dominance. Zhang Yuan looked at Dou Zhao. Although he was angry, he also felt Dou Zhao's dominance. At this time, a mark of the god of war appeared at Dou Zhao's brow chakra, and there an ethereal shadow of the god of war loomed behind him with a horrific will of might. The flash of divine thunder shone in the sky, and in an instant, this world seemed to be facing the apocalypse as the endless thunder now roamed between heaving and earth, casting a matrix of apocalyptic thundering all around him. As he stepped under the matrix, the sword of doomsday appeared in front of him, swallowing and tearing apart all the thundering divine light. Zhang Yuan, the supreme body of the Great Path from a Violet Heavenly Palace, was facing a great enemy. A golden divine light exploded, and Dou Zhao started his attack. His body directly pierced through the void as the golden divine light penetrated the space, traversing through it and appearing in front of the body in a flash. "Kill!" Zhang Yuan shouted angrily, roaring like thunder with the thunder god's wrath as the sword of doomsday was released as if to destroy everything in front of him. However, Dou Zhao slammed his fist of flesh and blood onto the sword without dodging and without retreating. There was a terrifying burst of noise between the two. The wandering destructive divine thunder engulfed Dou Zhao entirely. At the same time, a horrific power of terror sent shock waves through Zhang Yuan's body, like rays of golden divine light that penetrated regardless of the divine sword. Bang! Bang! A horrible sound erupted from the inside of Zhang Yuan's body. He groaned and forced his mouth to close. Then his body flew out backward as his face turned bright red, and finally, a mouthful of blood spewed out, and his breath rapidly weakened. The bones and nerves in his body seemed to be shattered. His eyes fixed on Dou Zhao, who was being engulfed by the destructive light of the thunder. The purple thunder shone and floated above his strapping and overbearing torso and then gradually dissipated, exposing that powerful and overbearing physique. Dou Zhao's eyes contained golden divine light. He stared at Zhang Yuan in front of him, who had no sign of injury. Clearly, he was disappointed. "Supreme body of the Great Path?" Dou Zhao mumbled, looking at Yi Futian and said, "Did he give himself that title? He was not too durable." When Zhang Yuan heard what he had said, another mouthful of blood spewed out again, his face red with incredible shame. He was the first person among the descendants of the Violet Heavenly Palace known as the Supreme Body of the Great Path. His name resounded in all of the Heavenly Mandate Realm. He was a magnificent figure in his own right in Heavenly Mandate Realm before, but all this changed after Yi Futian's appearance. Today, he was thusly humiliated. The cultivators from Violet Heavenly Palace stepped out to come behind Zhang Yuan, all of them staring coldly at Dou Zhao. The breath from their bodies was frightening. Perhaps. Yi Futian smiled. So, what kind of body are you? Dou asked curiously. Divine body of the heavenly path. Yi Futian replied. Dou Zhao felt that he shouldn't have asked. No one could have been as shameless as this. What kind of concept was the divine body of the heavenly path? Under the heavenly path, what other kind of constitutions could be compared? So shameless. How are they going to deal with this? Dou Zhao asked, looking at the cultivators releasing their breaths toward him. Do you think this kind of strength is worthy of competing here? Yi Futian asked. Not worthy. Dou Zhao responded. He was not even sure of himself in the competition, hence his proposition to join hands with Yi Futian. In comparison, Zhang Yuan and the others were even more unworthy. Then you can decide what to do with them, Yi Futian said. Dou Zhao then stepped out and rushed into the crowd of the Violet Heavenly Palace, violently swinging and blasting the golden divine fists. No one from the Violet Heavenly Palace could counter even one single punch from him. Watching all those who were being blasted and falling, Yi Futian's expression was one of pure indifference. It wasn't that the Violet Heavenly Palace was weak, but that Dou Zhao had opened up the third layer of fighting God's will. In this realm, there were not many equal opponents. There weren't many even in the entirety of the 9 realms. Dou Zhao's combative prowess was definitely top-notch. How sad, many who witnessed this scene remarked secretly to themselves. However, most of them were not too sympathetic. The aim of those who came here was to compete with each other. Such inferior strength indeed had no place in the competition. Violet Heavenly Palace, in comparison, was still relatively weak. People from the Heavenly Mandate Realm felt the most complicated. Now, someone who was willing to follow Yi Futian proactively had made a move and crushed the Violet Heavenly Palace without even giving them a chance to fight back. The cultivators from the Violet Heavenly Palace were full of grief and indignation, for they had never suffered such great humiliation. If it were to avenge the grudge of the past, Yi Futian could have struck directly. However, he didn't even bother to move, merely ordering Dou Zhao to do his bidding, and they were still abused to such a degree. Enough! A cold voice was heard, and the speaker was the Crown Prince Yi Tianyu of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty. This time in the God's Relic, the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and the Violet Heavenly Palace were considered allies. In addition to the Snow Divine Kingdom, where Yi Man was located, these 3 principalities had formed a rather considerable force. Dou Zhao was born to the Dou tribe, a top principality in Ziwei realm. Previously, when he hadn't been getting along well with Zhang Yuan, Yi Tianyu didn't intervene on account of not wanting to make more enemies. But now that he saw the cultivators of Violet Heavenly Palace being sorely beaten by one man, he had no choice but to step out and say something. Another violent blast from the fist, and 2 figures were knocked out in a flying fashion. Dou Zhao turned his head to look at Yi Tianyu and found that there was a Renhuang on Yi Tianyu's side, an old man from the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty. He had been suppressing his realm until after the entrance of God's Relic, and his breakthrough was a way of protecting the Heavenly Mandate realm to improve their chances in God's Relic. Dou Zhao turned his attention to Yi Tianyu, saying, "Do you fancy a try?" Yi Tianyu stared at Dou Zhao. If they were to fight, he wasn't so sure if he could overcome Dou Zhao. This man had crushed the cultivators of the Violet Heavenly Palace with great ease. Judging from the combative power he had demonstrated, he must be stronger. Enough, Yi Futian said. Dou Zhao turned his head to look at him, somewhat perplexed. He had wanted him to attack, so why stop now? He walked back to Yi Futian and said in a low voice, "I have given you plenty of prestige. If there were any benefits to be had, you should know what to do." Yi Futian looked a bit shocked. Watching this godlike figure next to him, He felt a little curious. This guy seemed to be multifaceted. He was wild and crazy on the outside, but inside, he was a bit cute. If Dou Zhao knew the word that Yi Futian used to describe him, what would he think? At this time, all the cultivators from Violet Heavenly Palace glanced at Yi Futian. Their numbers were considerable, and there were many cultivators from the 8 major branches of the Violet Heavenly Palace among them. Back when they took away Gu Donglu, he went to make trouble, but the other refused to turn him over. How high and mighty were they then? But now Yi Futian looked at them with some contempt, saying, "People of the Violet Heavenly Palace can get the hell out now. There is nothing concerning you here." The light of thunder flashed, and the cultivators from the Violet Heavenly Palace were extremely incensed when they heard such humiliating words used on them. But when Yi Futian cast his glance toward them, after seeing the gradually sharpened look in his eyes, no one dared to challenge him. All they could do was to look away, endless humiliation filling their hearts. "Let's go," Zhang Yuan said. His group left with their dead and wounded. After the people of the Violet Heavenly Palace left, the space was quiet again. The strength of Zhang Yuan's group was not spectacular, to begin with, so they had a minimal effect on the situation at hand. No one moved, and neither did Yi Futian as he stood there quietly. Although he believed he could unlock the seals of the treasure within the temple, he was unwilling to be the first to make a move and, presumably, everyone else thought the same as well. No one wanted to be so careless in their actions. At this moment, someone walked forward. It was not just one person, but many cultivators from one single top principality now walked toward the spatial sacred hall. At the same time, many more stayed outside on guard, and one of them said, "Since none of you are acting from now on, any looters who dare to touch the items released by us will be killed at all costs." These words contained incredible murderous intent. Many looked at the man speaking and knew that these people were from the Central Emperor realm. "Where are they from?" Yi Futian asked Dou Zhao. Judging from these arrogant words, they must have possessed great self-confidence in their own strength. If anyone were to rob them of their treasure, they would not hesitate to kill others as a way to deter any looting. The Martial God clan from the Central Emperor realm, one of the top ancient clans. Dou Zhao responded to Yi Futian via voice transmission. The Central Emperor realm was the center of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path, and the top forces among them were mostly clans, very ancient clans as a matter of fact. Many of them claimed to have descended from the gods and said that divine blood flowed inside their veins. The surname of the Martial God clan was Martial, indicating the combative power of those in the clan. It was said that their ancestor was the Martial God of War. Yi Futian nodded slightly. Among those present, there were some powerful Renhuang who were the only ones that could pose a real threat to them. In that case, let's not interact with one another, and we will each take our own, the cultivators of Yuanyang clan also proclaimed as they started walking forward, stepping into the temple. All the cultivators began to move, one after another. Many of them now entered the spatial sacred hall. Next to Yi Futian, many looked at him for a cue. When they saw Yi Futian walking towards the interior, many followed suit. This spatial sacred hall was extremely vast. It was filled with space will of the way everywhere. The endless space divine light turned the space into countless segments, and as soon as they stepped into it, they could clearly feel the strong and arrogant breath from inside. Many divine implements and weapons had mighty breaths permeating amongst them. "What do you want?" Yi Futian asked the people around him. "As many as possible, we are not picky," Dou Zhao responded honestly. "Get the hell away." Yi Futian looked at this brazen man next to him. As such, he wasn't picky either. Some of those who were around were a little speechless when they heard Yi Futian's words. Although there was a treasure trove inside with many divine items, were they so easy to obtain? It was extremely difficult to crack even one of the seals, and Yi Futian was asking what his people wanted? Could he get whatever his heart desired? "There is an axe over there. Yu Xing, why don't we get that for you to chop some wood?" Yi Futian said. "Chop wood?" Dou blinked. Clearly, he did not know the story of how Yu Xing used to chop wood at the cottage on the mountain. Yu Xing nodded. He was really not picky at all, as long as it was suitable for his explosive power, and the battle axe sounded like a match made in heaven. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Futian headed in one direction. He wasn't fast, but he moved very carefully. Futian headed in one direction. He wasn't fast, but he moved very carefully. The entire Golden Temple was filled with countless spatial threads, especially in the places where the implements were sealed within. Each of the implement in this Golden Temple was sealed by an independent golden space, and all the independent spaces there were connected to become a whole and constituted this treasure trove. Futian and the others walked to a place. In front of them was a battle axe suspended in midair and releasing radiant golden light. Renhuang-level light emitted from it. Standing here, they felt as if they were standing under a great pressure of might on the verge of splitting it in two. And around that suspended battle axe was a seal created by countless spatial divine lights. These divine lights were flowing to create a three-dimensional pattern, and that battle axe seemed to be locked within the pattern. Has anyone tried to split it open by force? Futian asked Dou Zhao. They died miserably, nothing was left, Dou Zhao responded. Futian nodded, for this was well within his anticipation. Whatever sealed inside was a very powerful divine implement. Therefore, it must have taken a considerably higher level of power to seal such weaponry within. To forcibly break the seal, there was no kind of realm that could have achieved this. As soon as the seal was disturbed, the golden divine light inside would start flashing, and the intruder would be torn apart by those infinite golden lights, leaving nothing behind. These treasures were like the collection of some great being. They are likely to contain the spirit of the implement so that they will fly out after the seal has been lifted. Even if the implement is freed, it is not so easy to obtain it, Futian whispered, and Dou Zhao nodded in agreement. Futian's speculations sounded about right. Dou Zhao sobered up and said in all seriousness, and even a miscalculation in unlocking the seal could spell great disaster. As soon as you provoke the power within, terrible consequences may ensue. Just now, even those in the vicinity could be affected. Before you came along, many had fallen here, which was the reason why everyone was extremely cautious and careful. Futian nodded. Everyone was outside when he came, and not only for fear of being robbed by others. Before this, someone had already learned the lesson the hard way. Now, none of them dared to act rashly. Then how do we break it? Futian asked. You are asking me? Dou Zhao looked at Futian with surprise. This guy had only gotten hold of that divine spear in a few moments, so he should easily break at least a dozen to 20 seals to be worthy of his trust, right? He was the descendant of the fighting god and had forsaken his dignity in this endeavor. If he didn't get a few treasures out of the ordeal, wouldn't that be terrible? I'm testing you. Otherwise, how could I demonstrate how different I am from the others? Futian replied. Dou Zhao felt that Futian must have been the most shameless genius talent he had ever encountered. He was absolutely the most shameless one. He wanted to see just how many seals he could break today. Futian's eyes became like the divine wheels. Rims of the wheels seemed to be reflected inside his eyes. In an instant, his eyes seemed to be able to see through the great path and into all of the nothingness. The flowing will of the way seemed to slow down in his eyes, and the lines of the pattern gradually became clearer. The pattern that sealed the battle axe gradually took shape in his field of vision like a golden divine gate. To unlock the seal, opening this golden divine gate ought to be the key. The surroundings became exceptionally quiet as Futian's eyes kept staring at the pattern. Those next to him were all looking at him, and the others couldn't really understand what he was doing. As if he felt the eyes of those who stared at him, Futian whispered, I have already seen through some of it. How much longer? Dou Zhao asked. Almost, Futian replied. But after a while, Futian was still watching. So? Dou Zhao asked again. Not too difficult. Futian sounded rather confident. Then open it. Dou Zhao looked at him. Futian turned his attention back and rubbed between his brows. He looked at Dou Zhao as if he was looking at an idiot. This is all set up by the great power of the ancients, and we cannot afford to be careless. We must only proceed when we are absolutely sure. Wait for me to observe it for a while longer to ensure my calculation is correct. Do you get it? Yi Futian's eyes were full of contempt. Dou Zhao clenched his fists. Didn't he just say that it wasn't too difficult? So, what were all these reasons for not getting a move on? As if he was an idiot. He felt the urge to hit someone, but looking at Yu Sheng, who was right next to Yi Futian, he thought better of it. Let's observe the other seals first. Yi Futian turned and walked to the side, where each seal occupied a different position, forming a separate entity of its own. Dou Zhao looked at Yi Futian. Was this considered fast? No difficulty? Even Qin he seemed to do her best not to laugh. An enchanting smile appeared in her beautiful eyes. She hadn't seen Yi Futian like this before. Was he holding on? However, even Yi Futian couldn't resolve it at the moment and dared not to act rashly, demonstrating just how strong the pattern of this seal was. People from other principalities around Yi Futian didn't bother to disguise their contempt. If he couldn't do it, he should just admit it. Was this guy really for real? His shamelessness was second to none. However, even Dou Zhao of the Dou tribe in Ziwei realm was following him. The space next to the battle axe also contained another divine implement, a dagger, which released a dark luster, with a terrible breath flowing from it, giving out a dangerous signal. However, like the battle axe, it was locked inside the flowing spatial divine light, as countless divine lights flowing back and forth, isolating the dagger in its place. You see, the others were useless also. Each of the implement here is sealed by different means, so the method of unlocking is bound to be different. Otherwise, they would all have been opened long ago. You have not even unlocked the seal of the battle axe, yet now you are looking at something else. I'm afraid it's all for nothing, Dou Zhao said to Yi Futian. Who told you that it was sealed by different means? Yi Futian asked. Dou Zhao was stunned when he heard Yi Futian's question and replied, "This is known by everyone." Oh, Yi Futian responded, his eyes still fixed on the pattern of the dagger. When Dou Zhao heard Yi Futian's response, the urge to beat him was even stronger. What did he mean by that? What Yi Futian saw was different from what Dou Zhao had said. The spatial lines were indeed different, so the patterns that were formed were also different. However, they were not formed by different means. On the contrary, he found that both seals shared something in common. In those flowing golden divine lights, if he slowed it down, the vision became clearer, and he could see a door. This was the same ability, except that the timing of the arrangement was different. Or rather, it was possible that the supremely powerful character had sealed the divine implement here at will, so it was the same sealing ability, only because of different timing so that his details were slightly different. If it was really as he had suspected, that this here was an armory where the Supreme Being stored the divine implements. If he was that Supreme Being, would he really set a different method to seal each implement? If he were really so powerful, the implement would be sealed as soon as he tossed it into storage. Why would he take on more trouble with them? Sometimes, things were complicated by overthinking because it was the wisdom of the ancestors that they were facing. However, considered in reverse, an entirely different angle now opened up. It didn't take long before Yi Futian walked in front of the third divine implement and continued his observation that roused Dou Zhao's curiosity. What was this guy doing? Qin He and the others were also puzzled, but they trusted Yi Futian. Although he sometimes seemed less than reliable, he had often surprised them. In the next few moments, Yi Futian continued his walk inside, observing all the implements as time slowly passed by, little by little. The others had already begun to try to unlock the seals. If you really can't do it, then give it up, don't force it, Dou Zhao finally said. Once I start my move, I'm afraid your heart won't be able to bear it, Yi Futian said with much contempt. He. Dou Zhao said nothing but merely looked on quietly to see how much longer Yi Futian could act this way. At this moment, a strong light shot out as the cultivator of the martial god clan unlocked a seal, but he paid for it. A divine light flashed, and a divine implement rushed out, along with the cultivator of the martial god clan, who would not let it slip away so easily. Many figures now flashed out of the golden temple. Whoever dares to snatch it will be killed without exception. An overbearing and indifferent voice was heard as the cultivator of the martial god clan threatened. Some cultivators continued to rush out, but no one dared to intercept the implement. The divine implement was a heavenly halberd. It was full of fierce breath. When a cultivator of the martial god clan attempted to take it, the horrific divine light of the halberd rushed into his body and shook his body violently. But his body was knocked out, and the heavenly halberd flew out of his hand. All the cultivators rushed toward the void at the same time, not willing to let the treasure slip away. Futian still remained within the Golden Temple, and even the cultivators of the martial god clan seemed to have figured out the skills to unlock the sealed gates, which was to destroy the circulation of the matrix that sealed the gate and allow the divine implement to come out by itself. However, this method was very dangerous, and may even cause the backlash of the matrix and end with the death of those who tried to breach it. The cultivators of the heavenly mandate realm were also making the same attempt. However, even though they were extremely careful, they still made a mistake, leading to someone being directly killed by the divine light. Almost, Futian said to himself. His eyes were looking toward where the heavenly mandate dynasty was congregated, and a very brilliant light seemed to have bloomed from his eyes, like a divine light. In no time, a light seemed to have directly invaded the seal matrix. In the next moment, strong golden threads flowed about, and a radiant divine light suddenly burst out. A divine implement rushed out as the seal was broken. The implement bloomed a brilliant light, rose into the sky, and burst out of the Golden Temple. It's broken! The cultivators from the heavenly mandate dynasty shuddered suddenly and immediately started chasing after the divine implement. Some people looked that way, struggling inside. There were people on the outside who saw the emergence of more divine implements, and they were eager to move. Still waiting? Futian remarked secretly in his heart, only to see another seal matrix opening up once again, and it was still at the place where people of the heavenly mandate dynasty had gathered. Another divine implement broke through the air and flew straight into the sky. Another one. The hearts of everyone trembled. As they watched the cultivators from the heavenly mandate dynasty rushing toward the divine implement, the inner throbbing of their hearts could no longer be contained, and some cultivators went after it as well. The heavenly mandate dynasty had sent out an impressive team this time and had scattered many people at different parts of the temple. They were not all stayed in front of one divine implement but were stationed at different locations. When they saw that two divine implements consecutively landed in their hands, a strange look showed on their faces. Just as a cultivator from the heavenly mandate dynasty looked up outside, the seal matrix in front of him suddenly lit up as another divine implement became available. What the hell? The cultivator from heavenly mandate dynasty remarked silently. This surprise was a bit unexpected. However, no matter the reason, the divine implements were the top priority. Take them down. Every one of the principalities outside could bear it no longer as 3 divine implements were unearthed in a row. They wondered if the heavenly mandate dynasty had found a method to crack the code. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. In the space above the spatial sacred hall, Tianyu had already obtained a divine implement. The heavenly mandate realm had a Renhuang-level cultivator, so they possessed some advantages. In the space above the spatial sacred hall, Tianyu had already obtained a divine implement. The heavenly mandate realm had a Renhuang-level cultivator, so they possessed some advantages. In this region, there were only 5 cultivators of the Renhuang realm, and the heavenly mandate dynasty had one of them. At this moment, Tianyu held on to the divine implement tightly. It was a Renhuang pen, similar to the Qianqiu brush that he used for his expertise. This was why he paid special attention to this particular divine implement. The pen was shining with terrible golden divine light as Tianyu held it tightly. The radiant divine light rushing into his body continuously and bathing Tianyu in a golden glow. There was residual willpower in the pen, and he needed to conquer it in order to control the pen. The divine light of the heavenly mandate was shining, with the Renhuang of the heavenly mandate dynasty standing protectively beside him, watching over him. However, at this time, divine implements shot into the void in 2 other directions, and more curiously towards the positions where people of the heavenly mandate dynasty were located. At this time, all the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty flew out successively to seize the divine implements. What's the matter? Yi Tianyu wondered. The seals on the implements in the spatial sacred hall were extremely difficult to crack, but they seemed to have some luck in breaking the seals. And before he even had time to figure out the situation, 2 more implements had revealed themselves, one after another. How could the Heavenly Mandate realm have such good luck? Did they get a large dose of it somewhere? This is bad, Yi Tianyu thought. At this moment, even the appearance of a single divine instrument would make others jealous, so the appearance of 3 divine instruments in a row was not luck, but disaster. Sure enough, just as Yi Tianyu thought, a dreadful Renhuang breath descended, covering the void. 3 consecutive divine implements appeared, and the other cultivators could endure it no longer. At times like this, how could they not snatch them? Be careful, the Renhuang from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty yelled out as he was guarding Yi Tianyu. He saw another Renhuang-level cultivator heading straight toward those from the Heavenly Mandate heaven to fight for them Renhuang implement. One of their descendants was in that position. A force full of destruction enveloped the vast void, and the cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty had also realized that something was wrong. In the next moment, they saw countless dark air currents appearing around the space they were in, like spears of death from hell that came to attack them. Go! A shout came out as they tried to rush out of this space, but the surrounding space had been blocked already. Black mountain ridges now appeared in the area behind them. They laid across the sky, a blockade to all the heavens. Then, the dark spears of endless destruction went toward them like the apocalypse. A sound came out, accompanied by the screams of the cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, as all of them were penetrated by the light of darkness and slaughtered. At the same time, the place where the 3rd divine arm appeared had a very similar ending with different players. The Heavenly Mandate dynasty was attacked at the same time by many cultivators who were strangling them, and even some existences of Renhuang were attacking them. It was in an instant that the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty had become the target of the masses. Everything was happening so fast that there was no time to think carefully. As soon as the implement was freed, everyone could only think of getting it in their own hands. There were very few forces in the 9 realms who could claim that they had implements at such a level. For some, to have even 1 or 2 would be considered fortunate indeed. Under such circumstances, could anyone suppress the desire to loot? The moment the divine implements appeared in front of the cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, they should have, by all rights, belonged to them. How could they just let them go? This terrible scene before them was the result of it. In only a very brief moment, the cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty on both sides were killed off. Nobody was spared. With the 2 Renhuang and many other strong cultivators involved, there was no chance for any of them. The Renhuang from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty was furious. In a flash, they had suffered heavy casualties, including one of his own descendants who had perished in front of his eyes. His rage was completely expected. The power of Renhuang erupted. He took a step forward and raised his finger. The Qianqiu brush, which contained a powerful murderous intent, exploded. The Renhuang pen dropped down as the light of death swept through the world, heading toward those who had murdered his descendant. The Renhuang who took the shot was one of the most superior beings from the Hidden Land realm. When he saw the Renhuang pen coming to attack, he put his hands together, and his whole body was like a plane in which countless sharp blades extended to lock in the space he occupied. Those black blades were extremely sharp, like countless dark spears, constantly extending to cover the sky and the sun. Each blade was thick and sharp, like sharpened mountain peaks slamming toward Yi Tianyu, his party, and everyone else. Other cultivators rushed toward the divine implement, too busy to care about the ongoing battle here. A chaotic scene now played out in the void, as the 3 divine implements had appeared at the same time, causing a melee. Yi Tianyu's face was extremely hard, as he was also attacked while trying to control the divine implement. When the other 2 divine implements had arrived just now, the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty should not have done anything to allow others to fight for them. They were the first to make a move and became the targets of the others, sacrificing their lives in vain. This time, they had dispatched all the elite of his generation from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. In just a moment, they had suffered heavy losses, losing many of their brightest descendants right on the spot. A violent destructive power swept toward them. The Renhuang from the Hidden Land realm was at war with the Renhuang beside him. Many other cultivators walked toward Yi Tianyu. It was as if they had begun to remember the Renhuang-level divine implement that was clutched in his hands. At this time, the cultivators of the Snow Divine Kingdom descended. Yi Man and the others came to Yi Tianyu's side. Her look was cold as she swept a glance to those who were surrounding them. Buzz. A splendid divine light erupted from the Renhuang pen as Yi Tianyu took it and held it in the palm of his hand. His breath was floating. He had finally successfully controlled this Renhuang divine implement, but when he saw those that were around him, it seemed that this divine implement was not so easy to keep after all. If they had concentrated their power in retrieving just this one implement, perhaps there may not have been much of a problem, but now everyone wanted what was in his hand. The Heavenly Mandate dynasty consecutively broke 3 major seals and released 3 divine arms. How did you do it? A voice came from nowhere. No one in particular appeared to be the speaker, but now, all eyes were focused on Yi Tianyu sharply. With so many cultivators present, it was difficult to get their hands on even one divine arm. The Heavenly Mandate dynasty had broken 3 seals in a row, quite possibly because they had seen through the sealing method and found a way to crack it. Seeing the look on everyone's face, Yi Tianyu knew it was going to be bad. How the hell did he know how seals were unlocked? He had no idea how this seal was unlocked and had mistakenly thought it was luck. As for the other 2, he couldn't even wrap his head around what had just happened. Who could explain it to him? Even if they assigned it to the good luck of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, it was such bad timing for them that it was more bad luck than good. But at this time, inside the temple created by endless spatial divine lights, Futian and the others looked up at the chaotic war outside. Qin He's beautiful eyes showed a curious look. Her eyes retracted from the sky above, and she looked at Futian's profile. She was wondering if it had something to do with this guy. Let's go and see. Futian's body flickered to the outside, and the others followed suit. Don't you want to lock them? Dou Zhao looked at him and asked. The group came outside. Futian looked at Dou Zhao and said, No hurry. These seals are easy to break, it's just a matter of turning a thought. We'll get them sooner or later. If we are too obvious, we will end up just like them, targeted by everyone. Futian's voice was not disguised, and everyone could hear him. Many were rendered speechless. They could also see that this man was brazenly shameless. The seals could be cracked with a mere turn of thought? Seriously? Then break one for me to see me first. Dou Zhao looked at Futian with shocked amazement. You don't believe me? Futian looked at Dou Zhao. How come, whenever he spoke the truth, no one believed him? It was indeed a matter of thought alone. Otherwise, how were the other 3 divine implements released? I don't believe you, Dou Zhao said sincerely. Futian pointed at Yi Tianyu, who was in the void, and said, This man is Yi Tianyu, the crown prince of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. He is known as the natural-born supreme. He was extremely distinguished in the Heavenly Mandate realm but is still quite beneath me. If Yi Tianyu could break 3 major seals, I can do better. Dou Zhao did not feel much like talking after that whole exchange. Futian looked up at the battlefield in the void and said aloud, Brother Yi, when you were at the Heavenly Mandate realm, His Majesty called you unparalleled in the world. Your talent is incomparable, and there is nothing you can't accomplish. Today, you cracked 3 major seals in a row, which is befitting of your sterling reputation as the crown prince of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. If only the Overlord knew, he would be most proud of you. The people around Yi Tianyu sobered up when they heard what Futian had said. They didn't expect that Yi Tianyu's reputation was so great in the Heavenly Mandate realm that he was considered unparalleled in the world. They wanted to see for themselves just how strong the incomparable power from the Heavenly Mandate realm was. Yi Tianyu's face was all twisted. Was this B** trying to kill him? He hadn't suspected that this was Futian's doing. After all, Futian didn't even come close to them. Could he have unlocked the seals from afar? How could this be achieved? Not to mention, he was unwilling to believe that Yi Futian could have even possessed such supreme abilities. There are many divine implements here in the temple. Why not turn over the method to unlock the seals so that everyone can choose what suits them? It's a win-win situation, and no one will need to monopolize all the weapons, someone said. Whether you believe it or not, what happened before was indeed a coincidence, Tianyu said. Brother Yi is unparalleled in the world. He has no fear of the geniuses of the 9 realms. Remember the Heavenly Mandate dynasty's dream of once again ruling over the Heavenly Mandate realm. If these divine implements of God's relic can be obtained, then the revival of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty is just a matter of time. Long live the Heavenly Mandate! Yu Futian continued. Yi Tianyu's eyes were extremely cold, and he wished he could destroy Yi Futian on the spot. Shut your mouth! Yi Man, the princess of the Snow Divine Kingdom, stared coldly at Yi Futian. He was piling hatred on Yi Tianyu, making him a public target. Cultivating at the Divine Palace and favored by the princess of the Divine Kingdom of the High Heavens realm, who is willing to follow you. I really admire that, Yi Futian said with a smile. It was not easy to find more enemies of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. However, with so many cultivators here, how would they empty the temple? It seemed that there were some slight difficulties. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. 1619 Exposed. 1619 Exposed. Yi Man looked coldly at Yi Futian, and her eyes contained murderous intent. But at the moment she seemed to ignore Yi Futian. The will of the great path from the cultivators around them shrouded her and Yi Tianyu. I cultivated with him in the Divine Palace at Upper Heaven Realm. I can assure you that he did not know how to crack those seals. It was all just a coincidence. Yi Man looked at the crowd and explained. If they became a target, it would be trouble, to say the least. But a divine sword was slashed toward them. Without bothering with more words, someone had made a move. Then, a horrific pressure of might erupted as a mighty battle broke out in front. The storm enveloped the endless space as everyone was now wrapped up in it. Yi Futian stood there quietly, watching the battle. In the strong storm, his clothes and his long hair were flying in the strong wind. There were many cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty who came here, forming a powerful alliance with the Snow Divine Kingdom. With a Renhuang existence among them, their alliance was a force of considerable power here. However, many of their people were exterminated right off the bat. Now being under siege, even if the Heavenly Mandate realm was stronger, they would still be in the same suppressed situation. Aren't you going to go for it? A voice asked. It was Long Chen of the Dragon Gods who had walked up next to Yi Futian. Do I need to? Yi Futian replied calmly. Why don't you fight for those divine implements? Long Chen shook his head. You didn't either. If I wanted to, I could get them at any time. No need to fight for them now, Yi Futian said with a smile. I believe you, Long Chen said. Yi Futian glanced at him. He didn't expect the purple blood divine dragon of the dragon gods to actually believe in him. You are the Yi Futian that's from the Heavenly Mandate realm? A voice came from the side. Yi Futian turned his attention to a group of monks that was coming their way. Their eyes were clear but gave an aura of unpredictability. And you are? Yi Futian asked. We are from the mountain realm, the monk replied. Which temple in the mountain realm are you from? Dozhao asked, looking at them. We have been seeking enlightenment between the mountains and the wild, the monk responded. No temple. Dozhao looked at them with curiosity and said, They are not the monks from Xinxing clan, are they? Precisely. The monk nodded slightly, and Dozhao was even more astonished. It turned out to be this group of bald donkeys. Yi Futian looked at Dozhao and heard him said, Xinxing clan was originally Xinxing temple, but because they did not observe the rules, they were ousted by the monks of the mountain realm. Because they were not allowed to build the temple, Xinxing temple became Xinxing clan. These bald donkeys were not here for good. They committed many evils and were greedy beyond imagination. It was an insult to their religion. Therefore, they were called unruly monks in the mountain realm. When Dou said this, it was not via voice transmission but said out loud, so there was no concealment from those who belonged to Xingxing clan. However, when the monk of Xingxing clan heard what he said, there was not the slightest disturbance in his eyes, and no anger at all, as if he had just heard a few common words. What was so good about keeping the rules? The world of cultivation was a cruel world. They were just following the path to cultivate when opportunities rose, unlike those other monks who were hypocritical in obeying those rules. This was how they were, and they didn't mind what people had to say about it. I have long heard of your clan by reputation, Yi Futian said with a fake smile. But what may I do for you, O great masters? As to what my lord Yi had said previously, though the others may not believe, we have faith in you, the other replied. What? Yi Futian had a look of surprise on his face. Lord Yi just said it was easy to unlock the seals and we believe you, the monk said with a smile. Yi Futian looked at the other and smiled in return. And what of it? Previously in the temple, no one had taken notice, but I actually felt the power of Lord Ye's psychic power. I imagine the seals opened by the Heavenly Mandate dynasty were with the help of Lord Yi. The monk faced forward without opening his mouth. He was communicating with Yi Futian through voice transmission. The ability that could open 3 seals in a single thought would have no problem opening up the whole temple. No wonder you are the genius talent who could have stepped into the ancestral land of the divine palace, the other party continued, but Yi Futian's eyes gradually grew cold. He didn't expect to be noticed by some people, but the perception of these bald donkeys was admittedly strong. Moreover, they even knew of some of his previous doings. And then, Yi Futian continued to inquire. Our strength is relatively strong here, with one of the 5 renhuang being ours. How about working together? The monk still did not look at Yi Futian. Those next to Yi Futian were all looking at the monk, obviously knowing that the two were communicating via voice transmission. What if I don't agree? Yi Futian asked. Lord Yi has a deep grudge with the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. But why is the Heavenly Mandate dynasty under siege like this? The monk responded with a smile. Clearly this was a threat. If he refused to cooperate, would they be besieged? I will consider it, said Yi Futian. He was just thinking about how to empty the temple and didn't expect to be exposed so quickly. Indeed, he should not have thought so highly of himself. After all, there were many able people here, and these monks from the mountain realm kept a low profile before. No one had really sensed their presence before. However, it seemed that they had been paying attention to the movements of the others, which was insidious indeed. It seemed that it was time to rethink his plan. My Lord Yi is a wise man, the monk smiled and said nothing more. They did not press him too tightly, giving Yi Futian time to think it over. Under such circumstances, cooperation with them was undoubtedly the most beneficial. He believed that Yi Futian would definitely make the right choice. What are you two talking about? Dou was very curious just what were the two talking about? As far as he knew, these bald donkeys were not good news. Chatting with the masters, Yi Futian responded casually, looking at the battlefield in the void. The alliance between the Heavenly Mandate dynasty and the Snow Divine Kingdom, likewise, demonstrated extremely aggressive resistance, but to no avail. They were being steadily suppressed, and many of their people had already perished in the battle. Princess, a cultivator from the Snow Divine Kingdom, transmitted his voice to Yi Man. Although the two were in an alliance, such a great sacrifice was something they were unwilling to make. Yi Man had a terrible look on her face. She glanced at Yi Tianyu. This matter has nothing to do with you. Get out of here, Yi Tianyu said. As he released a punch, he was knocked backward. He looked at the crowd that surrounded him, saying, I can give up this divine implement to you, and will no longer participate in the battle for the other artifacts in the temple. Would this be enough for you to believe that I did not do what you thought I did before? He didn't want to admit defeat, but under such circumstances, continuing to battle would not guarantee the procurement of the divine implement by the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. It only offered the strong possibility that his entire army might be wiped out. He had to do it. A series of tyrannical coercions loomed over Yi Tianyu. Yi Man looked at the figure above, and she understood Yi Tianyu. As proud as he was, the siege and the relentless attacks forced him to submit, asking for reprieve. He even offered to exit the battlefield of the relic proactively. Supposed he could really break the seals at will, how could he break the seals of 3 divine implements in a row and not know that it would lead to disaster? Yi-Man also piped in. Perhaps this is someone deliberately trying to provoke a dispute. If it was not you who provoked the fight, who would it be? Someone demanded aggressively. Although there was some truth in what Yi-Man said, it was still impossible for them to let go so easily. Didn't someone claim to be able to unlock the seals at will? Why couldn't it be him? Yi-Man said coldly. Many people frowned and knew who Yi-Man was speaking of. Yi Futian had been ranting and raving before with crazy words. Who would believe his bullsh*t? Do you guys really think that he was just some shameless madman? Yi-Man continued. When Yi Futian decimated the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, he claimed to have the divine body of the Heavenly Path, one who could do anything and had defeated all the Heavenly Mandate geniuses. Later, after he became well-versed in the mystical ways of Haotian's celestial gate, he caught the attention of Lord Taixian, who facilitated his entry into the divine palace to cultivate. In all these years, only one person from the divine palace had ever been able to enter the ancestral land. Yi Futian was not a disciple of the divine palace, and yet he was able to push his way into the ancestral land, defeating all the disciples of the divine palace with his sword. Yi Futian had a weird look on his face. Was this woman now trying to use what he had said about Yi Tianyu back on him? Yi-Man didn't necessarily know that it was his doing, but simply wanted to redirect the attention at him. Why do you think that the top geniuses of the Dou tribe followed him closely? Do you really think that he was just some arrogant moron? Yi-Man's every one word was driving into the ears of those who could hear, and many people turned their attention to Yi Futian. Previously, their impression of Yi Futian was that he was very shameless. Before Ziwei Palace, the Dou tribe and the clan of the Seven Slayers did encounter a relic that was inherited by him, so Bei Chen of Ziwei Palace looked at Yi Futian. Doubts started to plague his mind. Dou Zhao was a proud man, yet he was willing to follow Yi Futian. Just exactly what had happened to the underground palace after they left? Now, this also reminded me of something. Previously when we were in the Sword City, this man took the inheritance of the divine sword on behalf of the person that was with him. The sword saint of Avicii from the Heavenly Sword Hall was also present. When he was thinking back on all that had happened in the Heavenly Sword Hall, it all became so clear to him what happened at the time. It was Yi Futian who helped that swordsman to seize the heritage of the divine sword. It must have been that he had uncovered the secret of the inheritance. In light of what the cultivators from the Ziwei Palace had said, it could be deduced that this man possessed extraordinary talents in cracking the relics. The pupils of Yi Tianyu and Yi-Man contracted slightly. Before, they hadn't suspected Yi Futian. However, after listening to the two sides, they really felt that Yi Futian had his own agenda in the matter. Could it be him who actually cracked the seals? And it was not just doubt. Even if Yi-Man's words were not credible, it was impossible that the other two top powers also harbored some grudges against Yi Futian and intentionally set him up. What he was saying before was not the ranting of a madman. Dou Zhao looked at Yi Futian, who was next to him. His expression was one of surprise. Were the seals of those 3 divine arms were cracked by him after all? But the thing was, he never saw Yi Futian make a move. The words of all 3 parties inadvertently echoed with one another, and this was no longer a coincidence. Everyone's attention now instantly shifted from Yi Tianyu to Yi Futian. Yi Futian stood there, brows tightly knitted as he was feeling the coercion from all sides. Unwittingly, and by sheer chance, Yi-Man, Ziwei Palace, and the Heavenly Sword Hall stumbled upon the truth and left him exposed. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1621 of Our Own. Chapter 1621 of Our Own. Do you really believe I can beak the seals with just a thought? Yi Futian spoke to those around him but saw the determinations in their eyes as they moved toward him. Apparently, They totally believed it. The monks from the mountain realm somehow appeared next to Yi Futian. These monks were treacherous and may have gotten some clues before. Thus, they believed even more that it was Yi Futian's doing all along. Yi Futian might have set the whole thing up to cause the decimation of the cultivators from the Heavenly Mandate dynasty and to exhaust their strength in the process. "My lord Yi, don't you think we are sincere in our attitude?" said the monk of Shenxing clan next to him. Yi Futian narrowed his eyes to look at the monk next to him and cursed the bald donkey in his heart. What he said had sold him out completely, with no chance for explanation. He would have no choice but to own up to it. "The master is right, of course." Yi Futian, with a smile still on his face, said to the crowd, "My apologies. It was purely by accident that I broke the 3 seals without holding back." Everyone's eyes were on Yi Futian. It was really him who did it, breaking the seals with just a single thought. Many looked at Yi Futian with fiery eyes. This was even more horrific than the assumption that Yi Tianyu had a method for unlocking the seals. If a trace of his thought was enough to unlock the seals, wouldn't it be possible for him to take all the treasures away from the spatial sacred hall? In the past, no one had ever done it before. All they were able to do was take away a few treasures. Yi Futian was almost like a living treasure himself. Next to him, Dou Zhao also blinked. He didn't really expect this guy to do what he said he would. For now, Yi Futian was the center of all the attention, and the area became a little quieter. However, the attention of all the cultivators was fixed on Yi Futian alone. "We need to neutralize him first and keep him under control. Then we'll make him surrender the method of unlocking the seals," a cold voice said. It was Yi Man. In the battle that just took place, both the Heavenly Mandate dynasty and the Snow Divine Kingdom suffered heavy losses. All of this was because of Yi Futian, and it must be avenged. If it were not for her redirecting the attention back to Yi Futian, Yi Tianyu may have very well perished here. "The grievance between the Heavenly Mandate dynasty and me has nothing to do with you. Why do you want to get involved?" Yi Futian glanced at Yi Man, then looked at the others and continued, "I have always been straightforward in everything I do. To be honest, there is some bad blood between the Heavenly Mandate dynasty and me, so I apologize that I used all of you for revenge. Now you all know that I can break the seals with my mind, and I can empty all that is in this temple. I will share the treasures with all of you to show the sincerity of my friendship. What say you?" Many had a curious look on their faces. Yi Futian was facing a different situation than that of Yi Tianyu. Yi Tianyu really had no way of cracking the seals in the relic, and no one listened to his explanation, so what could he do other than be beaten? But Yi Futian freely admitted that he was the one who could unlock the seals, so it was up to them to choose to be friends or enemies. Now, this was an interesting proposition. Those monks were standing next to Yi Futian at the moment, as well as those from the Dou tribe and the cultivators from Brahma's pure sky. When Yi Man heard what Yi Futian said, the look on her face changed. "If you want to make friends, how do you propose to divide all these goods?" The cultivator of the martial god clan from the Central Emperor realm asked Yi Futian. That was something the cultivators from other forces were also curious to know. "It all depends on the depth of our friendship," Yi Futian said with a smile. "You mean you will be the one to decide?" The cultivator from the martial god clan asked. "If you were the one who could obtain all these the divine implements by unlocking the seals, would you allow someone else to decide who gets what?" Yi Futian replied, knowing that not everyone would accept his rationale. As expected, many sneered upon hearing Yi Futian's response and looked quite unimpressed. Clearly, many people were dissatisfied with his answer. "If you do this, you will be greatly pressured." Beside him, Longchen reminded him. "We all came from the Heavenly Mandate realm. The principalities from the demonic realm, and I go way back. You shouldn't be at odds with me, right?" Yi Futian said to Longchen and other cultivators of the demonic clan. There were no questions about the alliance of the divine elephants, and Yu Sheng took care of the dragon gods. Kong Xian and the Peacock Demon Emperor had the Sky Demon Court under their influence. Additionally, his third senior brother was the heir to the way of the demon god. No matter how he looked at it, the demonic powers from the Heavenly Mandate realm should be firmly by his side. "I want some good ones," Longchen said. "Sure." Yi Futian nodded. Sky Demon Court cannot be treated lesser than the dragon gods. June, suspended in the air, said to Yi Futian. Yi Futian smiled and said, "So, I have to treat everyone equally because I don't want to offend anyone." Almost all the cultivators from the heavenly mandate realm in this area had arrived, their powers being the strongest. Out of 5 Renhuang cultivators, the heavenly mandate realm had 2. One was the Renhunag from the heavenly mandate dynasty, and the other was the demon emperor of Sky Demon Court. Divine elephants were not a concern. Yi Futian had cultivated with them before, and the divine elephant emperor specifically ordered his cultivators to support Yi Futian, demonstrating their extraordinary relationship. Naturally, they were on Yi Futian's side. This turn of event was an embarrassment to Yi Tianyu. Yi Futian had united the top forces of the demon realm behind the scenes, and it would greatly influence the future of the heavenly mandate realm. It may even be very unfavorable to the heavenly mandate dynasty. Qin He from Brahma's pure heaven was also very close to Yi Futian. It seems that it would not be good for me to stand against the heavenly mandate realm, Gao Huang from the 10,000 divine mountains mused. You are welcome any time, Yi Futian said with a smile. It's been a long time since we had this much harmony in the heavenly mandate realm, Gao Huang said with a smile. Perhaps it was because there hadn't been anyone quite like Yi Futian who could make all his peers admire him. Yi Tianyu, the crown prince of heavenly mandate realm, did not achieve this, and neither did Jun or Long Chen of the demonic realm. Subtly, Yi Futian had become a symbol for this generation in heavenly mandate realm, having replaced and far surpassed Yi Tianyu in the influence he exerted. With all the principalities of the heavenly mandate realm standing behind Yi Futian in an alliance together with the Dou tribe, Yi Futian and his party had formed a rather powerful force. Everyone was surprised. They didn't expect Yi Futian to wield such a strong influence in heavenly mandate realm. In comparison, Yi Tianyu, who was previously praised as unparalleled in his world, seemed far inferior to Yi Futian. Their levels of influence were immediately clear. Dou Zhao looked at Yi Futian and thought admiringly, "Impressive. This man was truly remarkable." Judging from the influence he had demonstrated, this man was tremendously gifted in his talent, and it seemed that there was no shame in his being defeated by this man. Previously at Sword City, Brother Yi had been extremely honest in his conduct. Yuanyang clan would be honored to call such a man friend. Yuan Hong was heard making the remark, indicating that there was yet another top force joining Yi Futian's camp. In the current situation, they were not any less inferior than their opponents but had less Renhuang entities. Of course, it also depended on the attitudes exhibited by the monks from Shenxing clan. Shenxing clan's attitudes seemed to be particularly critical. What do you think? Yi Futian asked the cultivators from the martial god clan. I have a proposition, the monk from Shenxing clan said. Yi Futian and the others directed their attention at him and heard the monk saying with a smile, divide the implements from the hall into 5 portions, and each side will receive 2 portions. Isn't this a win-win proposition? How about the other portion? Yi Futian asked. Naturally, that's for us, the monk replied with a smile. Shenxing clan would want the portion that was the best. The master is also a jokester, Yi Futian said with a smile. If my lord Yi does not accept it, why not listen to what the others might propose? The monk smiled and said to the cultivators on the other side. Now, their position was of great importance and may directly affect the situation on both sides. Under such circumstances, why shouldn't they spearhead the effort to come to an agreement? The master can get a portion as well as the rest of us, isn't that great? The cultivator of the martial god clan looked at the Shenxing clan monk. They didn't short the monks what they felt they deserved. I don't disagree, however, if Lord Yi accepts my proposal, I am still willing to give him a chance. After all, us monks do not like to get involved in all this killing. Peace is priceless, the monk said with a smile. Looking at his smiling face, Yi Futian inexplicably felt somewhat amused. No wonder you, masters, have been expelled by real Buddhists. That's some wishful thinking you have, Yi Futian said with a smile. Did Shenxing clan think that they deserved to have a portion entirely for themselves? Now he was overthinking it. The monk was not angry, but both wore fake smiles on their faces. he continued, what is my Lord Ye's final decision? The seals of the sacred hall can only be opened by me. Therefore, only I can be the one who distributes the content. I will not accept any other suggestions. Yi Futian said with a smile, whether you are to be an enemy or a friend, it's completely up to you. My Lord Yi is quite bold. The monk smiled and looked at the cultivators from the martial god clan. Can you guarantee that we will receive 1/5 of the portion? Xinxing clan has one of the 4 great Renhuang. Of course, we can guarantee it, the martial god clan responded. Very good. The monk nodded with satisfaction, then said to Yi Futian, take care, Lord Yi. With that said, he stepped toward the other side as if to say goodbye to a friend. And so, the two sides were clearly separated, forming 2 major alliances. Gone was the scattered sand that they were before. This was probably something that had never happened before. All this was because of one man. To the rats below, shouldn't you be showing yourselves now? The cultivators of Xinxing clan asked nonchalantly. When his words faded, he saw golden figures breaking out of the air, and they were all cultivators of the purple gold rat clan. Brother Yi, will our rat clan get some of the treasures? Shu Huangsun asked Yi Tianyu. Of course. Yi Tianyu nodded. Ah, so you are one of our own. My apologies. The monk of Xinxing clan smiled. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1621 The Death of a Renhuang. Chapter 1621 The Death of a Renhuang. Both alliances had been formed. They were on the verge of breaking out into a fight. The atmosphere in the sacred hall turned solemn in an instant. In terms of ability, the alliance of the martial god clan was obviously more superior. Yi Tianyu seemed to have forgotten about the vendetta he had with martial god clan as well, since he had decided to join forces with them to attack Yi Futian's party. Now, it was 4 against 1 among the cultivators at the Renhuang plain. Martial god clan had a strong advantage against Yi Futian's party. The 4 Renhuangs were from the martial god clan, the Heavenly Mandate dynasty, Xinxing clan, and the Hidden Land realm, respectively. On the other hand, in Yi Futian's alliance, there was only a demon emperor from Sky Demon Court. The disparity in ability between the 2 alliances was obvious. A cultivator at the Renhuang plain could take down a group of people alone. Even though there were a few exceptional figures in Yi Futian's party who could barely stand against the Renhuangs, they were still at a disadvantage. Moreover, the opponent team had other talented cultivators as well. The situation of the battle was conspicuous. The alliance formed by Yi Futian was clearly the weaker party. This was the reason why the Xinxing clan had raised the price when forming a deal just now. If the Xinxing clan had joined Yi Futian's party, the tables would have been turned. The addition of a Renhuang and the support of a top force would result in an entirely new ballgame. Rumble. Terrifying aura burst forth. The murderous intent of the Renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty was the strongest. In the previous battle, they suffered the greatest losses. They were almost eradicated. Even Yi Tianyu had to back down, and the Renhuang was also injured. They were close to being wiped out. All this was caused by Yi Futian. How could they not hate him? Hence, their murderous intent was burning. The rest of the cultivators did not have much VO of vendetta against Yi Futian. However, in order to seize the treasures in the sacred hall, they had to take him down. Be careful. Don't kill him, the leader of the martial god clan ordered. His name was Wu Zhan. He was not a Renhuang, but his bloodline was noble in the martial god clan, so he was crowned as the leader for this mission. There was a chance of him advancing to the Renhuang plain in this god's relic. Clearly, they could not kill Yi Futian. Over the years, no one had ever had such a fateful encounter as to be able to unlock the seal to the entire sacred hall. Now, they had encountered someone who had managed to do so. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. How could they possibly let it slip past them? The crowd naturally understood that anyone here could be killed, except Yi Futian. Rumble. In this instant, law power swept across the sky above. Immediately, countless law power attacks blasted down from above. The entire space was thrown into chaos. Destructive law power was everywhere. There were divine swords in the air that slashed down from afar. There were scorching flames that set the world ablaze. There were destructive ancient mountains that descended from the sky, crashing down from above. Futian took out a long spear. He stood in midair, his white clothes fluttering in the wind. Fighting will swept out and enveloped his body. His fighting will was at the level of a renhuang. It caused the aura on his body to skyrocket to a frightening extent. His deed of thorough comprehension burst forth, and his great path coalesced, merging into the spear. The spear emanated terrifying golden divine light. Kill him. In an instant, both sides charged towards each other. Futian stabbed out with the long spear in his hand. The law power that was blasting down on him was shattered. His long spear was like lightning. It actually was directly aimed at the renhuang from Heavenly Mandate Dynasty. So presumptuous. Tianyu's expression turned cold when he saw that Futian completely ignored him as an opponent. Futian actually charged straight towards the renhuang of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty. Did he want to battle a renhuang? That was more than just being presumptuous. The renhuang of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty also revealed a strange look. The divine wheel of the great path in his body rumbled and roared. A myriad of qianqiu brushes, which were tainted with murderous intent, lunged towards Futian with the intention of burying him underneath them. At the same time, a massacre brush appeared in the hand of the renhuang, and he pointed it forward. The trumpeting sound of elephants could be heard from Futian's body, causing his energy to increase multiple exponentially. He thrust the spear forward, tearing the space apart. His spear actually penetrated through the myriad of qianqiu brushes and closed in on the renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty. The renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty snorted. Was Futian countering his attack with a head-on attack? The great path of all things came together and surged into the body of the renhuang. A dazzling massacre brush of renhuang appeared in the sky, causing the surroundings to appear dim in comparison. Many people from both alliances were engaged in battles now, but the fight between those of the renhuang plains still caused the other people to palpitate in terror. Kill! The cries of a massacre reverberated. The gigantic massacre brush and the spear collided. An alarming sound of collision erupted. However, Futian was actually not driven back by the attack. His fighting will burst forth once again. His body emanated a brilliant glow, as though he was a mighty god of war. The expression of the renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty turned extremely solemn as well. His gaze was deadly fixed on Futian. His finger pointed at the brush of renhuang. The great path of all things flowed into the brush of renhuang, causing its might to scale up ferociously. But Futian was sent flying into the sky by the repulsion. Then he dove and launched another attack. His will, surging with murderous intent, traversed the space and charged at the renhuang. At the same time, innumerable shadows of spears appeared in the sky. Buzzing sounds rang all around, as though the shadows of spears were drilling holes in the space. The renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty put his palms together. He was actually forced to go all out when faced with Futian's attack. The renhuang had a divine halo around him. Before him, one by one, the brushes of renhuang materialized, charging toward the spear. At the same time, with a flash of the divine glow of renhuang, he took a step and pointed his finger forward. A brush of renhuang popped up, and it expanded to more than 100 zhang tall, wiping out everything in front of it. Rumble! Futian advanced to execute his opponents, accompanied by rampaging fighting will. The renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty stabbed out with his 100 zhang tall brush of renhuang. It clashed with Futian's attack. A destructive storm swept up all around them. However, at this moment, the renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty frowned, seemingly alerted to an intense sense of danger. The golden silhouette that had passed by him and charged over to the other side suddenly dashed towards the renhuang of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty, leaving a golden afterimage. Frightening sharp claws that bore the aura of Demon Emperor slashed down. It was aiming to slice his head apart. Vermin! The renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty cursed, but right now, he did not have any time to think more of it. The claws of this rat demon had an aura at the level of a demon emperor. If it landed on his head, it would be split apart. His thoughts shifted, and he raised his eyes and looked up into the sky above. Light flashed over the Renhuang, and the divine wheel of the great path in his body burst forth with blinding divine light. A brush of Renhuang directly shot towards Shu Huangsun. The furious attack blocked the sharp claws of Shu Huangsun. With that split-second opportunity, the dominance of a Renhuang was fully on display. Even if one used a sneak attack on a Renhuang, it would still be blocked and would not succeed. A soft sound was heard. The body of the Renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty shook once. He slowly lowered his head and looked downwards. A silhouette that was covered from head to toe with endless fighting will had appeared before him. The long spear in its hand had pierced straight through his throat. In the instant that his attention had been diverted to block off Shu Huangsun's sneak attack, Yi Futian's attack had exploded and directly pierced through the Renhuang's own attack. In that instant, the long spear had penetrated his throat. In a battle between pinnacle cultivators, a mere lapse in thought would determine life or death. Yi Futian was still only at the same plane. Even with that increase in fighting will, how did he manage to penetrate his own attack? There was a look of despair in the eyes of the Renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. He was very dissatisfied. Rumble! The power of his divine wheel of the great path burst forth. Terrifying aura swept out. However, the fighting will on Yi Futian's long spear also furiously exploded out. The head of the Renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty immediately exploded. His spiritual soul was eradicated. His body fell down to the ground below, turning into the corpse of a Renhuang. God's relic was renowned as the land where proud sons of heaven would fall. He was the first Renhuang to fall in God's relic this time around. Initially, Yi Futian did not want to reveal Shu Huangsun's existence so early. However, if he did not do so, the difference between the Renhuangs of both sides was too great. 1 against 4 was rather tricky to deal with. Once the battle played out, the destructive power of 4 Renhuangs would be too frightening. Hence, they needed to first kill 2 Renhuangs. That was why he let Shu Huangsun reveal himself and carry out a sneak attack to kill off 1 Renhuang first. When Yi Tianyu, who was fighting over on the other side, saw this scene, his facial expression turned extremely ugly. "Vermin!" he cursed out loud. He never imagined that the Purple God Rat would suddenly go for the kill. Back then, the Purple Gold Rat clan had also participated in the ambush against the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven. The Purple Gold Rat Emperor was also involved in the murder of the Wang clan leader. This score could never be wiped clean. They were destined to stand opposed to Yi Futian. Hence, Yi Tianyu had never even suspected the Purple Gold Rat clan. It was the same for that Renhuang. Why would they suspect the Purple Gold Rat clan after knowing the grudges between Yi Futian and the Purple Gold Rat clan? However, the Renhuang of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty was suddenly ambushed by Shu Huangsun, causing his attention to be diverted from blocking Yi Futian's fatal blow and resulting in him being killed with a stab from Yi Futian's spear. Just like that, a Renhuang had died without any premonition. It was such an injustice. The number of Renhuangs now stood at 3-1. A fatal blow was delivered in the other fight, which happened concurrently. As soon as the fight began, the Demon Emperor of Sky Demon Court and the Renhuang from Hidden Land Realm engaged each other in close-quarter combat. The fighting scene was practically shocking. Demonic beasts were good at close combat. They would counter an attack with another attack. Every one of their strikes went for the kill. Meanwhile, the remaining 2 Renhuangs from the opponent team had their hands full as well. Jun led the members of Sky Demon Court to hold off a Renhuang while cultivators like Yu Sheng and Long Qin joined forces to attack the other Renhuang. The most fatal blow happened at the critical moment when the Demon Emperor was battling the Renhuang from Hidden Land Realm. A shocking murderous power erupted while the cultivators of the clan of the 7 Slayers were exchanging blows with the demonic beasts of Sky Demon Court right beside the former fight. The 7th Slayer especially activated the 7th trick of 7 tricks of the Killing Gods. This lethal attack by the 7th Slayer did not charge towards the members of Sky Demon Court. It instead slew the Renhuang from the Hidden Land Realm. The clan of the Seven Slayers was proficient in killing. When they activated the seventh trick, they were betting their own lives on the success of their attack. If their opponent lived, they might instead be killed by their own strike. When used together with a ritual implement, this attack reached the level of Renhuang. It penetrated through the defense of the Renhuang from the Hidden Land realm and made a slash on his body directly. A streak of blood appeared on the Renhuang's body. However, even so, he still sent the Seventh Slayer flying outwards with one blow, causing the Seventh Slayer to throw up a mouthful of fresh blood in midair. Swoosh! However, in this instant, the sharp claws of the Demon Emperor of Sky Demon Court immediately ripped Renhuang's head apart. One could imagine how the battle would end when one received such a fatal blow during such a fierce battle. Rumble! A ferocious aura sent everyone in the surroundings flying backward from the shockwave. The other two Renhuangs also knocked back all the cultivators around them. They stood alone in midair. Their expressions were extremely sullen. Two Renhuangs were killed off one after another. They had also died in the same manner. Both of them had been backstabbed. The Purple Gold Rat clan switched sides. The clan of the Seven Slayers also went against their alliance and helped their opponents slay a Renhuang. Their huge advantage of having 4 Renhuangs against their opponent's 1 Renhuang was immediately reduced to 2 against 1. The power difference was no longer that conspicuous anymore. There was also the coup d'état of 2 large forces. Why? Wu Zhan cried out angrily. Yi Futian looked in his direction. His eyes bore a chilly look. When the 4 Renhuangs were here, they had already decided to split the spoils 4 ways. If you all truly obtained the treasures of the Sacred Hall, what would the others get? Did you take the others as fools? Yi Futian mocked out loud. Before the battle began, Yi Futian had transmitted his thoughts to the 7th Slayer of the clan of the 7 Slayers. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1622. Chapter 1622 incited defection. God's relic itself was a place for looting. If it were to belong to whoever could unlock its seal, then this battle would have never taken place. Since they were all looting, if they truly managed to subdue Yi Futian and make him unlock the seal of the Sacred Hall, would they distribute the spoils equally? It was clearly impossible. Everything still depended on ability, and the 4 top forces with Renhuangs would undoubtedly claim the largest portions. They would even distribute everything amongst the 4 of them. After that happened, the 4 top forces would then turn on the rest. It would be practically perfect. Moreover, even if they managed to subdue Yi Futian, was it certain that they could force Yi Futian to unlock the seal? Conversely, if Yi Futian's side won, it was different. Yi Futian himself was the person who could unlock the seal. The most crucial point was that he would naturally not mistreat them. In the underground palace, they had battled before. In the end, Do Zhao of the Do tribe actually followed Yi Futian willingly. This meant that their opponent's character was solid. On top of that, almost all the top forces in the entire Heavenly Mandate realm were siding with Yi Futian. Hence, rather than trust the Martial God clan, they might as well put their trust in Yi Futian's side. This was a matter of choice. The 7th Slayer was somewhat hesitant before this. However, when Yi Futian transmitted his thoughts to the 7th Slayer, he immediately made his decision. As for School of the Emperor Star and Heavenly Sword Hall, before, this Yi man had spoken up and betrayed Yi Futian without any hesitation. Clearly, in the underground palace as well as the Sword City, they were dissatisfied and were naturally destined to oppose Yi Futian. At the same time the 7th Slayer's massacre power exploded, the other cultivators of the clan of the 7 Slayers also immediately slaughtered the alliance members of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty. The scene played out without any premonition. Even Yi Futian's side had not imagined that they would do such a thing. In a short while, the Heavenly Mandate dynasty's side suffered heavy losses. The other members of their side also frantically retreated backward. They looked all around, their gazes filled with looks of caution. With 2 large forces defecting at the same time, how could they not be cautious? Who knew whether another defecting force would appear? The cultivators of the clan of the Seven Slayers returned to Yi Futian's side. Yi Futian threw a fruit of the way to the seventh slayer, saying, "Good work." The seventh slayer immediately consumed it, swallowing it into his mouth. In this bout, he had also received the retaliation of the Renhuang right before he died and had suffered severe injuries. After this, "It is fine if you just rest," Yi Futian said. Now, the two sides were no longer so unevenly matched. With the addition of the clan of the Seven Slayers, there was almost no difference between the two sides. Adding on the severe losses of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty as well as the Snow Divine Kingdom, Yi Futian's side even held the advantage now. As long as they could handle the opponent's additional Renhuang, there should be no problem for them to deal with their opponents. Their positions were suddenly reversed. Many people on Yi Futian's side were secretly celebrating. This sudden sneak attack had killed off two Renhuangs. They could not help but consider it to be well executed. Due to this, they felt that the pressure on them had lessened and was not as heavy as before. They should be able to handle the situation now. Clan of the Seven Slayers from the Emperor's Star Realm. The Hidden Land Realm's top force was the Prison Fort clan. Due to the Seventh Slayer's sneak attack, they had lost their only Renhuang to the Demon Emperor of Sky Demon Court. In that regard, their Prison Fort clan would no longer hold any advantage now. They had established a vendetta between them. However, the clan of the Seven Slayers did not seem to care. Each time people entered God's relic, various massacres would take place. There were countless people who had died before this. Their clan of the Seven Slayers was the top force of the Emperor's Star Realm. Would the Prison Fort clan from the Hidden Land Realm dare to seek revenge on them? Back then, in the battle where the Heavenly Mandate dynasty ambushed the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven, the Purple Gold Rat clan was also involved. "What are you all thinking by pulling this off?" Yi Tianyu coldly questioned as he glared at Shu Huangsun. The death of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty's Renhuang was because of Shu Huangsun. Purple Gold Rat clan had offended both sides. How were they going to survive in the Heavenly Mandate realm? The first to be eliminated would be them. Yi Tianyu, now almost all of the forces in the Heavenly Mandate realm are on Yi Futian's side. Could it be that you still have not understood the situation? Going with the flow of things, I will naturally side with whoever has the higher chances of winning. As long as I help Yi Futian eliminate Heavenly Mandate dynasty, the grudge between Purple Gold Rat clan and the Celestial Gate of Vast Heaven will naturally be a thing of the past, Shu Huangsun said with a sharp voice. Hearing his voice, Yi Tianyu felt that it was exceptionally ear-piercing. As expected of a lowly rat demon, a member of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty immediately insulted him. The expressions of the members of the Heavenly Mandate dynasty who heard Shu Huangsun's words turned sullen. Had he actually defected just like that? Also, was the Purple Gold Rat clan prepared to pledge their allegiance to Yi Futian? How dare he? Were they prepared to join the other demonic beast clans to oppose the Heavenly Mandate dynasty? Do you believe that the demonic beast clans in the demon realm will see eye to eye with you? At the end of the day, your Purple Gold Rat clan is only suitable to be slaves. Yi Tianyu's voice was as cold as ice when he said this. The divine light of the Heavenly Mandate shone on his body. His murderous intent was terrifying. The first person that Yi Tianyu wanted to kill was Shu Huangsun. The members of the Heavenly Mandate realm and Demon realm forces beside Yi Futian felt somewhat baffled. Yi Futian actually persuaded the Purple Gold Rat clan to betray the Heavenly Mandate dynasty and stand on his side? When did this happen? Could Shu Huangsun make this call? However, Kong Xian was calm since she knew what had happened without a doubt. Back then she had also fallen for this trick. Right now, Yi Futian was using this trick to sow discord among the forces on the opponent's side. This trick was too ruthless. However, she naturally would not tell anyone about it, including the other demonic beast clans from the demon realm. Yi Futian looked around at the crowd and loudly proclaimed, "Feel free to go all out. We are sure to win this battle. Even if something else comes up halfway, don't be surprised." When the members of the forces on Yi Futian's side heard what he had said, they revealed strange looks. As for their opponents, their expressions turned extremely sullen. Could it be that there were other traitors hiding in their alliance? Right now, the two major forces in the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty alliance were the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty and the Snow Divine Kingdom. Their stand was undoubtedly firm. The other forces that sided with them were Martial God Clan, Xinxing Clan, Heavenly Sword Hall, School of the Emperor Star, and Qishao Divine Mountain, which had not spoken much all this while. The Martial God Clan of the Central Emperor Realm was ambitious, so their loyalty was more or less affirmed. Prior to this, Heavenly Sword Hall and School of the Emperor's Star betrayed Yi Futian together, so the possibility of them becoming traitors now was slim. On the other hand, Xinxing Clan sided with whoever could offer them the greatest benefits. If the situation changed, it was possible for them to make a deal furtively with Yi Futian. As for Qishao Divine Mountain, nobody knew what they were thinking. The swordsmen of Heavenly Sword Hall were aware that back in Sword City, Qishao Divine Mountain was present too. Could it be that Qishao Divine Mountain had been coaxed by Yi Futian to side with him? As they thought of this possibility, the swordsmen of Heavenly Sword Hall looked at Qishao Divine Mountain with doubtful gazes. Suddenly, the alliance of the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty was in a precarious state. Everyone in the team was suspicious of each other. Yi Futian snickered internally when he saw this scene. In reality, he had indeed tried to persuade Qishao Divine Mountain to join him, but they did not declare their stance clearly. However, they did not reject him blatantly as well. As for the Xinxing clan, Yi Futian had no intention of cooperating with them, so he did not even bother asking them through voice transmission. Yi Futian had spoken in order to incite suspicion among the opponents. As soon as he spoke, Yi Futian's team had had the upper hand in this psychological warfare. Everyone, pick your opponent and avoid all-out brawls, Wu Zhan said to the monks of Xinxing clan. Ren Huang of Xinxing clan, please handle the three-legged golden ravens. Are you fine with this arrangement? Now, he dared not ask everyone to engage in an all-out brawl like what they had done before. He was afraid that his team might receive yet another surprise attack. Leave the brutes of the three-legged golden raven clan to us, the monks of Xinxing clan replied. Right now, they didn't bother to be picky. They understood that any further haggling might cause their alliance to break apart. When that happened, no one would benefit. No problem. Leave Yuanyang clan to us, Wu Zhan said. Both Martial God clan and Yuanyang clan were from the Central Emperor realm. They knew the abilities of each other. As for the Ren Huang of Martial God clan, he was naturally in charge of defeating Yi Futian. Yi Futian was very powerful. He could even match a Ren Huang. They could tell this much about him based on his performance in killing the Ren Huang of Heavenly Mandate Dynasty just now. Moreover, he could unlock the seal. Naturally, the Ren Huang of the Martial God clan wanted to capture him personally. It would be difficult for others who were not Ren Huang to capture Yi Futian alive. Seeing that Wu Zhan was assigning tasks, Yi Futian secretly transmitted his voice to the leader of Qishao Divine Mountain, saying, Martial God clan is giving orders now. If Qishao Divine Mountain still does not want to declare your stand, we can only go into battle. Sir, you should be able to gauge the current abilities of both alliances. It will be difficult for your team to take me down. If we go into battle, many from Qishao Divine Mountain will be injured or killed. Please consider your stand wisely. There are still 2 Ren Huangs in your opponent's team. How do you plan to handle the Ren Huang of the Martial God clan? The leader of Qishao Divine Mountain responded with a secret voice transmission. This was his first time replying seriously. Obviously, he was starting to waver. Or rather, it should be said that he knew that he had to make a decision. Once he chose wrongly, not only would their ritual implements be taken, many of them would most likely die in battle. I will handle it, Yi Futian responded. There is no point in saying any more. Decide for yourselves. Our Qishao Divine Mountain will be in charge of helping you attack the 2 major forces from the Heavenly Mandate Realm as well as the Shadow Realm, the other party said decisively and did not say anything anymore. Clearly, he had already made his decision. However, they had chosen to attack the Heavenly Mandate Dynasty as well as the Snow Divine Kingdom, and not the other forces like the Martial God clan and Xinxing clan. Obviously, even though they were standing on Yi Futian's side, they did not want to take too big of a risk. Martial God clan and Xinxing clan were originally powerful, and they had Ren Huangs to hold the fort. the risk of fighting against them was much higher. The Heavenly Mandate dynasty and the Snow Divine Kingdom had suffered severe losses in the previous battle. They were the easiest to attack. Alright, Yi Futian immediately agreed to that. With Qishao Divine Mountain acting, he only needed to arrange for Brahma's Pure Sky as well as Purple Gold Rat Clan to deal with the two forces. It would be easier for the forces of the Demon Realm, Do Tribe, Clan of the Seven Slayers, and 10,000 Divine Mountain to go against the remaining forces of their opponents. Rumble. A loud thud was heard. The Renhuang of Shenxing clan took a step forward. His divine wheel of the Great Path exploded. It actually resembled a giant golden foot. This was where the namesake of the Shenxing clan originated. With a stamp of his foot, golden feet stamped down from the sky above onto the cultivators of Sky Demon Court. It took up half of the battlefield. But the Demon Emperor of Sky Demon Court spread out his wings. They blocked out the sun and the sky. Golden divine wings that were covered in flames swept up into the sky. They slashed at the golden feet. For a moment, it seemed as though the heavens and earth were ripped apart. Most cultivators were sent flying from the shockwave. At the same time, the Renhuang of the Martial God clan also stepped forward. His Renhuang aura pressed down on Yi Futian as he directly walked over in Yi Futian's direction. Prior to this, 2 of their Renhuangs had actually been taken down. For causing the fall of the other 2 Renhuangs, Yi Futian could not be forgiven. Now, he would personally take on Yi Futian. Anyone who got in his way would die. Yi Futian's body rose up and became a bolt of lightning that shot off high in the sky. In another direction, Yusheng also took a step forward and flew up. Now, they could open up the battlefield and go all out. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.